DC is like between Maryland and Virginia. It's like its own thing. Anyways, let's get this going. Alright, I'm Tom, and this is Fallout 4 Any Percent AGDQ edition submission. So let's do that. It's as you can see in the top right corner, there's a 60. That 60 is actually my frame rate. We limit our frame rate to 60 because the physics in this game run faster on higher PCs, so we don't want people to have a really unfair advantage against people by having really expensive computers. And then there's people like on laptops like I used to be who can't afford really high-end computers, so they like can run at 60 max. And like we just don't want people to be able to buy an advantage, so we cap our frame rate at 60, so you won't be seeing it go above that. The game's also in French. That's probably the first thing that you'll notice as well. That's because French is a rough 11 seconds faster than English. There's 2 unskippable cutscenes in the game. The first is when you're in the vault, when you see Kellogg murder your wife and take Sean. And the second is later on when you go into Kellogg's memories. Those 2 are the big parts of the run that are completely unskippable. You have to sit there and wait. And French is the fastest language when you account for both. Yeah, sorry about spoilers, by the way. French is the fastest language when you account for both of those cutscenes. Whereas, like, if you only count for the first, which is applicable to some categories, because some categories you don't do the later part, you just do the first part. German is the fastest. German is about a second faster than French. It's still, I'm not sure exactly how much faster it is than English at the start of the run, but for the whole run, French is 11 seconds faster than English. But yeah, so we play in French. Also, the run is done on version 1.1.30, which is one of the first patched versions of the game. We do that because there are a couple glitches that got patched out that are very fast, so we just downpatch our games and play on the earlier patch. So I'm gonna do my stats real quick.
Merci encore. Et Trésor?
Yeah, Chad, I'll go through all the subs and alerts and everything after the run ends.
N'est-ce pas?
So the stats that I picked, we put 10 into endurance. The more endurance you have, the slower your AP drains when you sprint. So obviously we want to have a lot of endurance because it makes it so that we run or sprint for a longer time. And obviously sprinting is fast. It's faster than just running normally. So we want to have as much AP usage as possible, so we max our endurance to do so. Secondly is agility. I max that. The more agility you have, the more action points you have, which means you can sprint more and use VATS more. And VATS actually is used in this run. It's utilizing a glitch called punch warping, which I'll get to in a couple minutes. I put 1 point into intelligence. Now, if you're familiar with the Fallout series, the more intelligence you have, the more XP you get, which means you level up faster. We don't actually want to level up incredibly fast. We want to level up at a certain rate so that we level up like when we discover a certain location in the middle of the run. Because that actually, every time you level up, your health and action points get completely refreshed. So there's like a prolonged running segment in the middle of the run, and it would be very beneficial to us if we were to level up in the middle of that running segment, since it would completely refresh our AP. So if we bring up our intelligence to 2, it refreshes our AP in the middle of that run. And also I just did a little skip right there by mashing E. I mashed E on that guy's dialogue, and if I press E at the right moment, right at the end of the dialogue, it completely skips his line. But yeah, step on this platform, witness a nuclear explosion that we would totally survive. Yeah, Sam, I saw you were playing Clone Hero on YouTube. Anyways, and then we dumped the last 2 points into luck because like there's no other special point, like special whatever it's called, special skill that we could put it into that benefits us. Like there's no benefit to putting it in strength. We don't want to have too much intelligence because it'll throw off that level up timing. Like there's no benefit to any of the other ones. And luck is just the fastest, just dump them into at the end, so just hold down and right. So that's why we put a couple points into luck. There's no additional perks other than the ones that we get 2 perks throughout the run that are related to endurance and agility, and we have those max so we can easily get them. There's no other perks that we get throughout the run that actually benefit us in terms of speed, so it doesn't really matter what special points we take after we max out endurance and agility and put 1 point into intelligence to bring that up to 2. But this coming up right here is the first unskippable cutscene of the run. It's about 2 minutes long, so to pass that time, I like to play Nintendo 64. And during this time, I'll actually explain a couple glitches that I'll be doing. The first of the glitches is what I typically refer to as a VLC clip. A lot of people call it a cone clip. A VLC clip is a form of item clipping, or item climbing, or item clipping, whatever you want to call it. We do a couple item clips throughout the run, and it essentially pertains, it like pretty much just pertains to the character picking up an item so that they're just holding it in front of them and then looking down and walking backwards into a wall. If you continually walk backwards into a wall, then you'll climb up because of the way the physics works in this game. And if you climb up far enough, you can potentially clip through the ceiling or maybe through a wall, depending on how the ceiling is. It just depends. But I'll be doing that, so you'll see me do a couple item clips throughout the run. The second major glitch, it gets tricky to explain because I set up one major glitch first, and then I set up another after it, and then I trigger the second one first, and then I trigger this. Oh no. I triggered the second one before I triggered the other one, like the first one. So I'll explain the one that I set up first. So there's this glitch called punch warping, and punch warping more or less is a way to store our coordinates in the game and teleport to them later on. So this game, like most games, I think almost every game, it reads where your character is by reading a set of coordinates. So like right now I'm playing Super Mario 64. The game knows where Mario is because it's always reading a set of coordinates for his position in X, Y, and Z. Fallout 4 is no different. You can actually look up what your X, Y, and Z coordinates are if you use console commands. But we can pretty much store our coordinates and teleport to them if we can store our coordinates and teleport to them if we try to melee attack something in VATS, and then like we position ourselves with, like, before we do the melee attack, we position ourselves between some objects or like behind an object, so that if we were to attempt to melee attack something, we have to, like, the game would have to pathfind us around or through objects, and the game like inherently doesn't want us to clip through objects or go out of bounds. So the game thinks for a little longer than normal about how to pathfind you to get into melee range of the target. So if you cancel your melee attack in VATS while the game is still thinking, then the game actually stores the position of where you were standing, because like you incorrectly stopped your melee attack in VATS. So the next time you attempt to melee attack something in VATS, you actually get teleported back to that position. And that glitch actually still works on current versions of the game. So does VLC, or item climbing and like clipping and VLC clips. Punch warping still works. So anytime you see me attempting to melee attack something in VATS, that is me either setting up or triggering a punch warp. And you can tell which one, because if I'm triggering a punch warp, I'll be in a different location from where I started. So right now I'll try to lure over that rad roach. There we go. I just set one up. And now I'm going to do a second VLC clip real quick. This one's a little finicky. Both of them are kind of finicky, but get over. And now I'm going to set up what's called a cover slide. So notice how I can aim around the corner in this game. That's a cover system. If I incorrectly break the animation of going back behind the object, like if I incorrectly like break like the aim by entering third person, then the game stores the position of where I was standing And the next time I have my gun out in first person, I get slingshotted back to where I was standing. So I set up a cover slide right there. Next time I take out my gun and I'm in first person, I'll get slingshotted back to where I was standing, right? It's different from punch warping, because punch warping you actually get teleported. So like you just appear somewhere else, whereas cover sliding you actually slide through locations. So they both have their benefits. They both have their pros and cons. Punch warping, really consistent, but you don't slide through places, so you can't actually unlock places. But that does mean you don't have to worry about collision, whereas cover sliding you do have to worry about collision, but you can discover locations, which we're about to trigger our cover slide right here. Let's hope we survive. I'm going to make a quick save right beforehand just in case. I'm going to do that. Let's see. Let's hope we survive. I'm ready to quick load just in case. Oh, I should survive. Yeah, we're all good. Sweet. So we just did our cover slide and we landed near Concord, which is where the Museum of Freedom is, which is where the Minutemen are, which is good because the Minutemen are a pretty much essential faction that you have to side with in the run. Like I'll take that jet. That's good for us. We pretty much need them to complete the main quest of the game. I actually didn't manage my AP effectively right here, so I need to wait a second. There we go. So we needed to discover the Museum of Freedom, and then we wanted to leave right away because we don't want to like actually go through the Museum of Freedom right now. And the reason for that is we need to get a quest first before we go into there, because there's actually an item that spawns on one of the Minutemen inside of the Museum of Freedom that is required to beat the game, and it doesn't spawn until we do what we're about to do right here. So we want to do this first before we even go into the Museum of Freedom, because otherwise it's a waste of time. And as soon as I enter this sewer right here, I'm going to quit to the main menu and reload the autosave that was made when I entered. And the reason for this is because when you make a save underwater in this game and then load it from the main menu, you load in at the top of the water to prevent players from like accidentally soft locking their person in a drowning state. It turns out on top of the water in this spot right here is out of bounds, and if you just swim up along this pipe, we will be getting a quest update in a second. Right there, the nuclear option, which if you didn't know is the last quest in the game, or pretty much the last quest in the game. So now we have the nuclear option. Now that item has spawned in the inventory of the character in the Museum of Freedom that I was just talking about. His name is not Preston, sorry. His name is Sturgis. Sturgis is like the mechanic of that group, but we're not going to go there yet because we're going to go do some shopping. Because we're going to buy some items in shopping that increase our move speed and also just help us all around. But you may have noticed, hey, how are you going to do shopping if you don't have any money? Because we really haven't done much looting, or really any looting. We picked up 2 guns and that was it. So how are we going to do shopping? Well, we're going to utilize the first glitch that I forgot to mention is one of the ones that's patched out is cover sliding. The second one that's patched out is this one that I'm about to do. It's the vendor glitch, which many of you, if you played Fallout 4, will know about if you played it near launch, because it was very popular and it got patched like immediately. So the vendor glitch is pretty much buying and selling ammo in a specific order with any vendor, and it gives you infinite store credit. And with this, I'm going to buy a list of items. I'll go through what I'm buying in a second right after and explain why I bought each item. But I need to focus just on buying real quick, because it's a lot of menuing. I'm going to position myself right here real quick. Buy all this ammo, sell one, sell the rest, sell a bunch of little ones. Buy back, and now we have a lot of store credit. Kind of bought too many pistols, but that's okay. So, let's go through what I bought. I bought a biometric scanner because biometric scanners are required for building the teleporter at the end of the run. So biometric scanner is like necessary. If we didn't get it there, we have a backup one that we can grab, but it loses you like 9 seconds. I bought all her Radaway and stim packs. I bought those because like we're going to be taking a lot of rads through the run. One second. That jet that I grabbed earlier is necessary for a glitch later on, so I grabbed it. That was what we grabbed in the toolbox. I bought Destroyer's left leg and Destroyer's chest piece. I bought left leg because it increases my move speed by 10%, which is obviously fast and good, so we need that. And Destroyer's chest piece I just grabbed because it was right there and easy to grab. It decreases the damage we take from humans by 10%, I believe. It might be 15. So that's just nice to have. I bought a bunch of Molotovs from her. I bought frag mines from her. Frag mines I'm grabbing all throughout the run because we can use VATS on them anywhere, so we can set up punch warps anywhere. And then I bought a bunch of pipe pistols for clipping. And so I'm going to throw one of my Molotovs right there. And as soon as I enter, that Molotov still hasn't hit the ground. That Molotov is actually still in the air right now. And it's not going to hit the ground until I exit the Museum of Freedom. And I wanted to throw it while I was entering because near where I entered, there's a bunch of raiders. So if it hits the ground when I exit and there's a bunch of raiders nearby, the game will think that I'm in combat. And we're going to be entering power armor right when we exit. So it's good for us to be in combat when we enter power armor because then we get a fast power armor entry animation. So yeah. But it only works if we get a first try pickpocket right here, which we need to do on Preston or Sturgis right here to get that item that we got to spawn on him. No, not first try. But the reason why I shoot, so the Molotov thing won't work, but the reason why I shoot him real quick is because it skips a long dialogue. I'm gonna set up a cover slide real quick. Normally they do this whole dialogue about how, oh, here's our savior, all this stuff. If you just aggro them, then it skips all that. You just put away your gun and they forgive you, and then you can pickpocket him. But because I failed that pickpocket, I didn't get first try. That Molotov cocktail will explode right next to me on the right. I'll enter the power armor now. I'm gonna be doing another cover slide right here. This cover slide will be taking me to Lexington. Pop a stim pack. This cover slide will be taking me to Lexington. And Lexington is good because that's where the loyalty mission for the railroad is. And this is important because we actually want to side with the railroad at the end of the run. That's who we're going to build the teleporter with. Okay, we're already on the ground, I guess. That's actually who we built the teleporter with. So we need to side with the railroad. And normally for each... normally for every faction you have to go through this whole prolonged thing where you like do loyalty quests and stuff like that, and instead of going through the loyalty quest like a normal person, we're gonna just pretty much skip most of it by picking up the loot that you get at the end of the railroad loyalty quest and then dropping it, and for whatever reason that updates the quest. I'm gonna take out my boxing glove because that's the best melee weapon in the game. This is the shadow from my mic. It's the shadow from that. I'm gonna set up a punch warp in this corner real quick, so I can just punch warp back up to the exit, and I'm going to clip out with a cake pan right here, and drop down, and then survive with 1 health. Oh, that's a little more than 1 right there, and grab this item, which is the quest item. Find the buff out I picked up in the museum, and I'm going to drop Carrington's prototype, and now that will update my tradecraft mission. So pretty much all I need to do is leave the switchboard. I just need to leave the switchboard and then go and talk to the Old North, or go and talk to the railroad at the Old North Church, and they'll all of a sudden be like, oh, we trust this guy, he's worked with us in the past. So yeah, we'll be able to join them like right away. Ugh. So I fast travel to Old Corner Bookstore. I'm just going to be running this way through a bunch of raiders to go to the Old North Church, which is where the railroad are. And upon entering, I'm just going to take out a pipe pistol and item clip down to the basement. And for some reason, the railroad just stand there 24/7 waiting for people to drop down, and they flip on a light immediately. It's like they're waiting for you all the time. They don't seem to mind the fact that you drop down from the ceiling. They talk to you like normal. And say hello to Paul Revere, father of speedrunning. Without him, we would not be here today. No, there we go. Drop a pipe pistol real quick. Clip out in this corner. Talk with the railroad, and they're gonna at first gonna say, who the hell are you, and then Deacon's gonna walk out and vouch for us. Talk about, well, at first they're gonna say like at first they're gonna pretend like they don't know me, either of them really, and then I'm gonna start a second dialogue with them immediately where they're like, oh, Deacon's told me a lot about you. I hear you carried him through 1,000 synths and all this stuff. Makes sense, you know. And talk with Deacon real quick. Start another dialogue. And now we're going to be joining the railroad, even though we met them 30 seconds ago. Then after this dialogue, I'm going to be setting up a cover slide real quick.
Okay.
So now I've set up a cover slide. That'll be coming into play in like a couple minutes. But I'm going to level up Action Boy real quick and solar powered. Action Boy increases our AP regeneration rate by 25%, which is very good because that means that we can sprint more, obviously. And then take solar powered because it increases your endurance and strength during daylight hours, which in this game I believe is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I could be wrong. I think it might be off by an hour on each end. But that's good because whenever we run during day, we'll have more endurance, so our sprint drains slower. And I did a little bit of fast traveling there for 2 reasons. One of them was that it skips Desdemona's entire intro dialogue of the railroad, saying, here's our, it's not much, but it gets the job done. Here's our HQ. It skips that, and it also offsets the day-night cycle. So now it's day, and we can do this prolonged running segment during the daytime, which is good. Because now we can reap the benefits of solar powered and be able to run a little more than normal. But we're going to be running over to Diamond City right now, and we're going to be doing, unfortunately, the last VLC clip of the run. And for the last VLC clip, we're just going to clip right into the side of Diamond City, and there's like a load zone like inside of Diamond City to enter Diamond City. You'll see in a second. There's a bunch of ghouls right here who will pop up, but too fast for them. We're going to take a wide berth of this yellow car that we've named Herbie because he kills you if you like bump into him wrong. And we're going to enter Diamond City. And now we'll be in Diamond City. I'm going to be activating my cover slide that I set up in the basement of the Old North Church after I load in. That will slingshot me to next to Nick Valentine's detective agency. Pretty good cover slide. The fact that we drop down is really good. Nope, no thanks. Set up a cover slide in this corner real quick and enter Nick's agency. And right when I enter the agency, as soon as I load in, I'm going to make a quick save and then turn around and exit. The reason I make the quick save is because I'm going to be doing a glitch called load warping. I'm going to be load warping to exit Diamond City. I'll explain why in a second, but let me do the load warp first and make a safety save, or make a save on the other side to set up for load warping. I don't want to mess this up because this is very easy to mess up. It throws off the rest of the run. It's very easy to do right though. But load warping is a glitch that you'll be seeing me do a lot throughout the run. It's very, very powerful. It's actually still in the game. It's not patched out. Only the vendor glitch and the cover sliding are patched. So notice Piper's on the outside. That's a mental note to make, okay? Make the mental note. So, load warping is a glitch that pretty much allows for you to make a quick save and transport your character to the location of an old save that you've made. So I just made a save right outside of Fenway, right? So whenever I enter and exit Fenway, there's a fade to black. Like when I enter, there's a fade to black. Then it fades from black as I like load in on the other side. And then when I re-enter the load zone, it fades to black again. So if I were to load that Fenway save, say I like do this entire run through the glowing sea, make a bunch of location discoveries, and then I just loaded the Fenway save. I'm gonna be the character from the Fenway save, right? I'm not gonna have any of the locations I just discovered. I'm just gonna be the character from the Fenway save. But if I were to make a quick save after I discover all these locations, and then I load the Fenway save, and I enter the door to exit Fenway, and during the fade to black, I quick load. I'll load as the character from the quick save, but I'll load in the location. I'll load in at Fenway. which pretty much allows for you to make a quick save at any time and load an old save and pretty much take your character that you were just playing as and put them in the location of the old save. So it's a way for us to pretty much fast travel out of buildings. That's what we use it for mostly throughout the run. So anytime you see me loading an old save, it's because I am load warping. I'm going to be setting up a load warp in the far bottom corner of this map. The reason for that being is that there's two reasons why we're going down here. One is because it's necessary for us to go down here to progress with the run, because down here is a location called Virgil's Lab, which is where an NPC named Virgil resides. He won't spawn till later though, but we're going down here now to make a load warp save so we can come back to him later very easily. Virgil won't spawn until we complete the memory sequence. The second reason why we're coming down here is we're going to be setting up a cover slide. So this is the far bottom left corner of the map. We need to get to a location on the middle left side of the map. So the fastest way to do that is to cover slide down the left side of the map from the top left corner to the bottom left corner. So I'm going to be setting up a cover slide in the bottom left corner, and then after I make the load warp save and everything, I'll be fast traveling to the top left and then sliding down the left edge of the map and stopping halfway at Fort Hagen. I'm just thinking real quick about something. Okay. So the reason why people all ask all the time, why don't you just cover slide or punch warp all the way to the bottom left corner of the map instead of doing this long running segment? Well, like I said earlier, you can only load warper, or you can only cover slide or punch warp to you punch warp and cover slide to the location you were already at, or the coordinate equivalent of the location you were already at. And the coordinates of this area of the map are so extreme that there's no other location in the game that has coordinates that line up with it, meaning we wouldn't be able to just set up a cover slide or punch warp and teleport us to all the way down here. So that's why we can't just cover slide or punch warp to the corner of the map. So we just have to go through with this run, you know. But I just set up a cover slide on that rock. So once I make it all the way to the corner by Virgil's cave, Virgil's lab, I'll be making my load warp save. And then be going over to then be fast traveling around and cover sliding. Yeah, I should waff. I should. It'll be probably a couple days before I get my emote slots and also my new personalized emote tag, so. I know, I did mess up the level. That's what I was thinking about. I did mess up the level up in the glowing sea. That's okay. That's fine. So I'm going to make the save right before entering the cave so that I can just very easily walk into it and trigger the load zone and load warp very easily. But I'm going to fast travel to Lexington real quick and pick up my power armor that I left here earlier. Power armor negates fall damage, so we like to use it for cover slides because cover slides have a tendency to put you up really high because it bounces you off objects and shoots you straight up and whatnot when you're doing the cover slides. So I'm going to fast travel to Vault 111, and now I'll be in the top left corner of the map. I'll be in the top left corner of the map. So now when I do a cover slide, I'll be going down the left edge of the map. And you'll notice that I'm in third person doing this cover slide. If you're in the Pip-Boy when you do a cover slide, or if you're in the Pip-Boy, even if you were in third person, being in the Pip-Boy counts as being in first person. So if you're in third person with your gun out, you're not going to trigger your cover slide since you need to be in first person. But if you double tap tab to pull up your Pip-Boy and put it away really quickly, you'll technically be in first person for like a quarter of a second, and you'll be able to use your cover slide real quick. And you can break it up into a bunch of little chunks. We actually got a really good cover slide right here. We landed right next to where we needed to go. So I'm going to do a horizontal gun clip, which is a variation of just a normal item clip, and enter Fort Hagen, totally the intended way. Not the exit or anything like this. I think I'm staying a little too close to the gun. Yeah, let me re-grab it. There we go. I'm gonna enter here. So earlier when I did all my shopping, I grabbed this Fat Man. I stole it. You may have noticed. The reason why we grabbed the Fat Man is that you're allowed to use it for a speech check. You can use Big Gun's negotiation skill. So I'm going to be using that to pretty much convince Kellogg to hand over his stuff. So I'm going to drop this pipe pistol, grab it, and clip down into the basement. And then once I'm down here, take out my Fat Man, use the Fat Man negotiation, and then grab the stuff that Kellogg gave us. I need this for later for crafting. View the access logs, and I need to make a quick save, and now I'm going to load warp to the fens, you know? Because this is now where I'm going to do the first load warp. So I'm going to walk backwards to trigger the fade to black, and during the fade to black, I'm going to quick load. So then I'll be the character who just killed Kellogg, but I'll be in the fens, or I'll be in Diamond City now. So it allowed for me to fast travel out of, it allowed for me to pretty much fast travel out of the Fort Hagen area that we just killed Kellogg in. And once I load in, I'm going to immediately equip my not security baton, my boxing glove, and a frag grenade that we just looted off of Kellogg. This will punch warp us back to the corner that we set up our punch warp in earlier, and now we'll be in Nick's detective agency. Now you remember earlier how Piper was on the outside when we were exiting Diamond City? Well, because she was on the outside, that means she didn't get till the inside until pretty much just now, because the game just loaded her on the inside for the first time. So this means that now that she just entered Diamond City, she's like, oh, I need to talk to Nat and let her know she's a good kid. So she's trying to talk to Nat now. So that means she's not trying to talk to Nick. So that means that we can skip all of Piper's dialogue in this part. Normally she and Nick have like an 8-second unskippable dialogue sequence, but you're able to completely bypass it if you are able to get Piper confused. Pretty much have her thinking that she needs to talk to Nat at that moment. So now that we recruited Nick more or less, we go to the memory den. The memory den is the second unskippable scene of the run. It's the second unskippable scene of the run, and it pretty much consists of us going through Kellogg's memories and learning where Sean is. We're learning how to get to the Institute. So we have to talk with Dr. Amari. Talk with Nick and Amari. And pretty much we're going to say, alright, let's have Nick sit in one chair, I'll sit in the other. We'll put Kellogg's consciousness into Nick, or Kellogg's brain piece into Nick, and then we're going to go into Nick's mind and look at Kellogg's stuff. I'm going to set up a punch warp in this corner real quick. I have to sneeze. I'm going to run upstairs. I'm going to exit the memory den real quick and then re-enter, and this will skip all of Amari's dialogue lines. And then all we need to do, thank you for all the blesses, all we need to do is run back in here and punch warp back down to the basement. That drifter that we actually triggered our punch warp on is actually Deacon. If you look closely, it is Deacon. I'm pretty sure his character ID is actually Deacon, but he's labeled as Drifter because we're like technically not supposed to have met him yet, kind of. But the reason why I aggroed Amari right there and downed her, she's tagged as essential, so we can't kill her. So notice it faded to white immediately right there. Normally she has like a 20 to 30 second dialogue where she talks about, all right, we're uploading you now, and all this stuff. Completely skips that if you get her and Nick to aggro to each other and then you down her and then you put away her gun so she forgives you. The reason for that is there's a specific script in the game's directory for de-aggroing them, and for whatever reason, if you are to aggro them, and then like get them to aggro to each other and then down Amari and then sit down within a certain time span, it allows for you to skip her dialogue. I'm not sure exactly how it abuses that script. We know it involves that script somehow, but not exactly sure how it works, you know. But this is a longer running segment again. This is a minute 20 of running, and then it's followed by 2 minutes of waiting. And this is where French is really the fastest language. Like German would be faster than French up to this point, but after this point, French, like this point on, French just blows it out of the water. So that's why we play in French. But we just have to. This is actually like one of the more in-detailed parts of storytelling in Fallout 4. You go through Kellogg's life, you grow up and everything like that. But we just breeze right through it. Yeah, there is still a bounty out for a skip for this. No one's claimed it. It would be an incredibly big deal if a skip for this section was found. We've done so much research and we've discovered so much stuff, but we just can't find a way to skip this part entirely. There's so many fail-safes to make sure you actually go through this part. There is a way to skip the walking segment, which is a minute 20 long, but it takes a long time to set up and isn't really RTA viable, so. 1 second.
Ce souvenir a l'air très récent. C'est une bonne nouvelle, je dirais.
I had to close my window real quick. Let's go back to Mario.
Kellogg. C'est bon. Un jour, quelqu'un va te faire sauter la cervelle si tu continues de débarquer sans prévenir.
Je suis censé limiter mon contact avec les civils au maximum.
Oublie ce que j'ai dit. Alors, quel est le problème urgent cette fois?
J'ai de nouveaux ordres pour toi. L'un de nos scientifiques a quitté l'institut.
How do you get past this?
C'est-à-dire?
C'est un traître.
Oh, I'm so good.
Brian Virgil. On sait qu'il se cache quelque part dans la mer luminescente.
Oh no, don't.
Voilà son dossier.
Merde, il y a des têtes qui vont tomber.
Oh, boys!
Il faut l'éliminer. Il travaillait sur un projet classé top secret.
Sans blague.
Almost at 9, almost at 100.
Bon, je suppose que tu vas ramener.
Where did Mario come from? I'm playing on an N64.
Ta seule mission est de trouver Virgile et de l'éliminer.
Vous allez me ramener chez mon papa?
Oui. Viens à côté de moi et ne bouge pas.
D'accord.
X688. Prêt pour accès avec Sean.
Au revoir, monsieur Kellogg. J'espère qu'on se reverra un jour.
Salut.
Il se téléporte. Je comprends.
Oh, that was dumb. Okay.
Personne n'a jamais trouvé l'entrée.
Okay, well now this segment's over.
Parce qu'il n'y a pas d'entrée.
Back to the run.
Je vais vous faire sortir de là. C'est quand vous voulez.
This is Fallout 4 on 8%. So, as soon as we exit this area, we're going to pull out our gun and shoot Amari real quick because that will aggro her again and it'll automatically complete most of her dialogue and advance the quest. Not complete her dialogue, but it'll automatically advance the main quest. So, after I shoot her, it updates the quest, and I'm going to load warp to Virgil's cave, which is, if you remember, the place that we ran across the entire map to get to. So just load warped into Virgil's cave. I'll be loading in on the other side as the character who just killed Kellogg, went through all the memories and all that jazz. So we're gonna be pretty much trying to wrap up the main quest now. There's very few remaining steps, but the steps each are kind of long. There's probably about 15 minutes of the run left.
Calmez-vous.
Talk with Virgil real quick, and he's pretty much gonna tell us, yeah, like, so when we went through the memory sequence, we learned that there is no entrance to the Institute, which is who took Sean, because they just teleport in and out. So we're gonna talk with Virgil, who is a former Institute scientist, and he's gonna pretty much say, yeah, but in order to teleport to the Institute, you need to have pretty much be able to hone in on where they're at. best way to do that is to have a courser chip, which is in the head of a courser.
Un bon paquet.
So you need to kill a courser and get that courser chip.
D'accord.
So pretty much right here, what you're supposed to do is go to the CIT ruins, turn on a radio signal, and kind of walk around until his beeping gets louder, but it always leads back to Green Tech Genetics. So we know exactly where that, or where the courser always is. And lucky for us, we can just convince the courser to hand over the courser chip. You'll see how in a second. But we fast traveled to Green Tech Genetics, and we're going to enter and pretty much go through the entire segment. This segment is actually pretty tricky if you're speedrunning without glitches, because there's lots of explosions and stuff that are going on. But if you're playing any percent like we so happen to be, we're very lucky, and you'll see why in a second. Once this loads, all right, here we go. So all we do is, lucky for us, there's a trash bin right here. We can use that to pretty much sequence break this entire interior segment. And bypass all of the gunners. I'm gonna set up a punch warp right here. Oops, no. There we go. Set up a punch warp right here. Run upstairs. And so the place where we set up the punch warp, it's kind of high up in the area that we were in, since we were already up 2 floors. So that means our coordinates that we stored are kind of high up as well, which is perfect because we're actually supposed to run up a couple sets of stairs here. But instead, if we just punch warp real quick, we're at the top, and we can convince the courser to hand over his courser chip real quick. Just like that, we have the courser chip, and we're going to load warp out to the fens again. And now that we have the courser chip, typically the story point here is, oh no, the courser chip is encoded. We need to decode and figure out how to get there. And all we need to do is go back to our good old pals, the Railroad, because they have quite the smart fellow there named Tinker Tom. Tinker Tom used to be a big barrier to getting good times earlier on in like earlier iterations of the route, but he's gotten more consistent as the route has progressed. There's only really one thing he can do now that loses you like a good chunk of time, but there's a way around it. But just fast travel to the Railroad HQ, and now we're going to talk with the Railroad, and we're gonna talk with Desdemona, and she's gonna be like, "Oh, I heard you did stuff at Green Tech. Sounds like it's straight out of a comic book." And you're like, "Yeah, that was me."
Desdemona.
J'ai un rapport qui ressemble plus à une BD.
Ouais, c'était moi.
And now, pretty much, we're going to decode the courser chip.
Okay.
I'm going to sleep for an hour to skip her walking and talking.
Salut Dave. Non. Je parie que vous aviez jamais rencontré de synthétique avant de...
Excuse me, drummer boy. Excuse me, Glory.
Vous avez décroché la timbale. Donnez la puce. Voyons.
Ok. Tenez.
À toi de jouer, Tom.
So if you shoot people who are considered to be your allies, like the Railroad are to me right now, or the Minutemen, it'll take 4 to 5 shots before they get angry, and you can actually shoot each one individually about like you can shoot them each time to skip a line of dialogue. So if we shoot them a couple times, it'll skip a couple lines of dialogue. So that's why I was shooting them right there. Hopefully, yeah, I set up a little cover slide on Desdemona to get me closer down the hallway. And I'm looking for a certain line by Tom, which he was saying, and after he starts a line that starts with Sulfur N, which is the last line he says, I can make a quick save and load warp to Virgil's lab again. And this will automatically skip the last parts of the lines that are required to complete to update the quest. I'll load warp in and the quest will be completely updated, and we can talk with Virgil about building the teleporter. So now we've decoded the courser chip, and we just need to talk with Virgil, who will now give us the plans for a teleporter, because he actually knows how to build the plans, or build the teleporter.
J'aurais dû m'en douter. Après, comment?
J'ai fait appel au réseau du rail.
Moi qui pense. Désolé. Et voilà.
Ok.
Vous savez, toutes les... Je tiens.
Je sais que ça va.
Talk with him real quick. Right is actually like a quarter of a second, half a second faster.
Non, mais
That's the last line we need, though. There we go. So we just exit now. And we go back to the railroad. And once we're back at the railroad... we just talk with Des and Tom again. And they will pretty much say, alright, let's go build stuff, you know? Talk with Des. Tell her about the teleporter. I'm going to shoot her twice. Maybe 3 times. I think it's just twice, though. And now we need to talk with Tom, who is right here. He's in a good spot. He has one spot that he can stand where it's like a 50-50 chance at him completely locking up. And you can't skip his lines. But he's in a good spot right now. But if you get that, then all you have to do is fast travel away and come back and he'll be all fixed. So on that very first cover slide, I mentioned when I was doing the first cover slide, one of the reasons why cover sliding is so good is the fact that you can slide through places and discover them. And on that first cover slide, we were actually having our fingers crossed for discovering Sanctuary. Because if you discover Sanctuary, then you don't need to run to it later on, which means you save 17 seconds. But we didn't get it, so we just had to run up to it. But this is where we're building our teleporter. My eyes are doing okay. I feel a bit of pressure in them, so I'm going to finish up the run without the glasses, then put them back on. But now that we built the platform for the teleporter, I need to pick up this item that I dropped. The reason why I dropped it is because we need it to... we need it for building the teleporter. And if you don't drop it, it automatically gets scrapped, even if you have other items that constitute the same amount of things. Or constitute the same components. Like the same scrap. So tell them that we built the platform. Now we're ready to build the rest. We're going to go back to Sanctuary and talk with him, or finish building the teleporter real quick. Okay, so there we go. So I need to connect everything, pretty much build the teleporter real rapidly. Now it's all powered up, so I'll talk with Des, skip a couple lines because she didn't start the right dialogue real quick. Go through this dialogue.
Comptez sur moi.
I'm gonna jump onto the platform and fast travel away real quick, because if you get onto the platform after, or if you get on, pretty much if you fast travel while standing on the platform at any point after Tom's first line of dialogue, then when you load in after the fast travel, you get automatically teleported to the Institute like this, and it skips like 45 or something second dialogue with Tom. So now that I'm here, I'm in the Institute. I'm going to load up the Institute relay targeting sequence, which will teleport in the Minutemen as opposed to the railroad. And I'll explain the reasoning for this in a second. Shoot Preston a couple times. Grab the fusion pulse charge from him. I was mashing E, so it didn't really flash up or it wasn't really up on screen for too long. I'm going to set up a punch warp in this corner. I'm going to do what's called the jet jump. This is why we grabbed that jet earlier. Jet actually increases the height that you jump very, very slightly. So it allows for you to jump a little bit further, and it's needed to reach this door. Unless you do a different variation of the jet jump. I actually messed up real quick, so I'm just going to load a quick save I made. Unless you do a different variation of accessing this door, which is known as jetless. It's a little trickier. I'm not too practiced on it right now. It's not very difficult once you get the hang of it, but I just haven't done it in a while, so wouldn't be comfortable doing it right now. But I'm going to be triggering my punch warp, which will teleport me to pretty much the reactor where I'm going to place the fusion pulse charge. But so the reason why The reason why it was Preston who teleported in, oh, I didn't want this out. The reason why it was Preston who teleported in as opposed to the railroad is because when we got the nuclear option quest, we triggered it at a stage that was like halfway through the quest. And when you do that, the game is automatically like, wait, who are you with at this point in the game? Because you're actually, if you look inside the game's scripts, there's like 3 different versions of the nuclear I think at least 3. There's at least 2 versions of the nuclear option. One for Minutemen and one for Railroad. And each one is like instituted with like an M or an R to like to relay, oh, it's with the Minutemen or the Railroad. If you get it in the middle though, it doesn't know who you did it with, so it defaults to the Minutemen. So because we did it with the Minutemen, that's who it's gonna teleport in. But at the same time, we've been doing stuff with the Railroad. I need to aggro Des real quick. So then it like does it with them, but even back in the day before we even sided with the railroad, it didn't do it with them. It's complicated. Or like they still got teleported in and everything like that. It's just complicated. Another member of the community named Gingenia knows far much more about this. He's done a lot more digging into the scripts than I have, and it's just a real messy quest, real messy script.
C'est bon, Tom.
Talk to Tom real quick.
Téléportez-nous.
So right there, that line is going to spawn a working, that's the very important thing, a working detonation button on the roof of the mass fusion executive suite. I'm going to load warp on this door. This is the last load warp in the run, and it's the most difficult. The timing is pretty narrow. It's a couple frames at most. I'll get it after a few tries. I think that was too early, so because I did it too early, I'll be loading just the quick save as opposed to on the other side of the door. See, I'm back in the railroad, so I just need to get this timing just right. Haven't done Fallout 4 runs too much recently, so my timing is a little off. Very easy to get this timing back though after practicing for like half hour or so. So pretty much just do this trick until we get it. Very, very often get it like first or second try. That looked decent. That might have been a fraction too early. That looked pretty decent though. Let's see. Yeah. Again, that might have been too early. We'll see. We'll see. We're way under where we should be at for time. This was a pretty decent run overall. But yeah, this is as soon as we get this trick. This is like the last main trick in the run. I think I got it right there. This is like the last main trick in the run. After this, it's like 40-50 seconds. Yeah, I got the trick. I got the load warp. You can tell because it's a prolonged load screen. Takes longer than normal. So now we're back in the Institute. We're done talking with Tom. We just step into this teleporter, and it'll teleport us out to the Mass Fusion Executive Suite, which is where the detonator switch is for the Institute. There it is. Hit the detonator, do a cool pose, and we watch it blow up. This Fallout 4 any percent. I'm not sure what I'll put for my estimate for this run. Maybe an hour, maybe a little less. We'll see. There we go. All right. Let me